I welcome you all for my next presentation in a database management system that is called as a database users and database administrators. So in this presentation we are going to discuss about what are the various uses that are associated with the database environment, the various uses of the database environment and their responsibilities. Right. Let me go to the presentation. Generally, we have the database uses are categorized based on the way they are approaching or accessing the database. So this is a typical way. So the database, the users can be categorized under various way. In general, there are the four DB uses. One that is called as a Navy uses, and next is a application programmers, and the third category that is called as a sophisticated users, and then fourth category are called as the database administrators. Now every user, the way of approaching or way of accessing the database is different. Say for an example, some users may access the database by writing certain programs, or some may access the database by using only the query, that is by using only the transactions, and some may use or access the database by using only by the way of the forms. Right? Say for an example, if any clerk or any HR people of HR assistants of the industry, if they want to include the employee information, now what the DB will do is, now it will generate the forms about the details of the employee, that is the employee ID, employee name, that employee designation, and the employee salary and address. All these things they will give it into the form, and that will be automatically updated onto the database. So this is one type of a users, and these groups, they will approach the database or access the database in such a way. Right? And there are many programming interfaces are there to access the database. So some users, the variety of other type of users, they are using these programming languages to access or approach the particular database. Right? So what is the primary goal of the particular database? Like every time we are talking about the same thing, that is, now in an efficient way I have to retrieve the information from the database, and as well as also I need to store certain the new information into the database. This is the primary goal of the database systems. So to facilitate this, we need the faster response. Now, how all these things will be done, that is the responsibility of the database administrator. Right? So the people on the database that are categorized as database users, the database administrators, generally a database users and the database administrators. The administrators, they will administer the entire activities of the database in terms of by monitoring and to providing the security access to the various group of users, and also they have to facilitate for the faster response. Have to facilitate for the faster response. So this database administrator, they should know the complete structures and the schema of the database. They have to know the physical structure, the logical level, and the view levels. Then only they can easily administer the various resources which are resided on the database. Right? So generally the database users are categorized as the two way. One is the database users and database administrators. Now these all are the normal users. There may be a Navy users or a sophisticated users or a application programmers. Now according to the database architecture, every database users, they are having a own application interface. They are having their own application interface. So they are interacting the database with the help of their own application interfaces. Say for an example, the application programmer, they are invoking the database only with the help of writing a program, which is a certain program. Some users may use certain tools as application interface to access the database. Right? So that's why I said at the beginning, the database users are categorized by the way they are approaching or they are accessing the particular database. Right? So there are generally 4 different types of a database system users apart from the database administrators, and they are differentiated by the way they expect to interact with the system. They are called as Navy users, application programmers, the sophisticated users, and the specialized users. So these are the 4 categories: Navy users, application programmers, sophisticated users, and specialized users. As every user is having their own user interface. They are having their own user interface. Let you please go back and see the architectural diagram of the database management system or a database. There I thought that the entire diagram I am going to divide into 3 ways. One is in a top level and a bottom level and then middle level. Middle level is a business logic where how the query evaluation engine plays a vital role. And the lower layer it deals about the physical structures, and we have a storage manager. and transaction manager, a buffer management, a file management. And also the low level, it also talks about the catalog information, that is metadata of the particular database. That is the information about the particular database. And it also have a indices, that is called as the index value, that is generated by using the indexing algorithm. The various indexing algorithms are there. The very popular algorithm that is called as a hashing algorithm. And when you coming onto the application level, we have 4 levels of users. The 4 users are there. Every users are there having their own interfaces, user interfaces to approach the database, or to access the database, or to pass the query to the database, or to get the result from the database. That's why, since we have a variety of interfaces are there, that's why the various compilers and interfaces are plays a vital role there. We have a DML interpreter, we have a DDL interpreter, we have a DML compiler runtime interpreters, and whenever a application programmer they are writing the programs, then obviously we need to compile those programs, and whenever the necessary library modules we need to link, so the compiler and the linkers they are plays a vital role to convert and also to check systematically the syntax is correct, and it passes the query, that is dividing the complex query into a small individual component to make it understand very clear, and converting that into the internal format. So that's why every database users, they are having their own interfaces, that is they are having a own way of accessing the particular database. Some may only enter the form details, whichever is asked, they will enter only those details, and that will be updated onto the database. And those users, they are not, they completely unaware of that how the data are processed. They are feeding the input. That's all. Some may use the application programs or query to get the response, and the report will be generated. Right? So these are the ways the users are approaching the particular database or accessing the respective database. Right? So when they want to manipulate certain things on the database, the user interfaces are very much essential to access the database, to access the logical level from the view level. Right? Now you are clear about why every individual user is having a different user interfaces. Why not it is a common? Right? So first, let me move on to the deeper into the slide. What are the users are there? As we know, as a name is we know the Navy users, the application programmers, the sophisticated users, all the names we knew it. But what are their responsibilities? Why they are called as the sophisticated users? Why they are called as the Navy users? That we are going to discuss in detail in the later in this presentation, in the later presentation also. And Navy users are unsophisticated users. They are unsophisticated users. The reason is because the way of interacting to the database, that based on this they categorize as unsophisticated users, who interact with the system by invoking one of the application programs that are written previously. One of the application programs that are written previously. Right. For example, now a clerk in the university, they want to add a new record of the new inspectors and the relation that is called as the inspector relation to the department that is called as the A. So what they want to do, they need to invoke the program which are called as new hire, and they need to make the entry of the new inspector onto the inspector table which are located under department A. While doing this, while writing this program, while invoking the program, the clerk obviously should know what is the ID of the new inspectors and what department they want to, they belongs to, and what is the salary, because all these things they have to give the input, feed the input onto the particular record. These are the various attributes associated with the inspectors. Right? So these users are completely unaware of the other part. They knew only to how to invoke the program. They don't know what even there in the particular program. They will execute the program and they will feed the respective inputs to store those values onto the respective database. That's why they said they all are called as unsophisticated users. Right? So typically their user interface is like a forms-like interface. They are feeding the input that by filling the appropriate values on the form, and that will be stored onto the database. In turn, what they will do is they will generate the reports, and then they will generate the reports. Right? So by this way, so they have a form. From that form, they are accessing the database and they will generate the reports. Alright? These all are the responsibilities of the Navy users. And next, the application programmers. The application programmers are the computer professionals since they are writing the application programs. The user who intended to access the database through the application programmers, through the application programs, they are called as application programmers. They are computer trained, they are computer professionals. Since by using their comfortable programming languages, they are writing their own code. So they have to use many tools to develop the user interface. Here the tools are assisted to the computer professionals to develop the user interfaces. Based on that, the access will be provided, or based on that they can achieve their own task onto the database. So this is one of the tools that which is called as a rapid application development. That is one of the tools to develop a user interface. Now this tool will enable the application programmers to construct the forms and as well as the reports. Once they construct the forms and then reports by using this tool, then automatically the other users, they can feed the input and they can generate the reports. Now I think you are clear about what is the responsibility of the application programmers. Right? And next is the sophisticated users. We can say the sophisticated users, we can say that the normal users. They interact with the system without writing programs. And Okay, without writing program, then how we can able to access by using the query languages. Right? They form their request by the way of a query. Right? That is by either using a database query language or by using the tools. This will be widely used for the database users, and this will be widely used for the big data analytics. The data analytics. They using certain tools. They use a certain tool to analyze the database to get the required output. Say for an example, weather forecasting. Right? So, on the sophisticated users part, the analysts who submit the queries now what is the reason the query is to submit it? Because I want to explore, I want to get some data from the database. So that is a major reason. By using the database query languages, I am going to submit the queries. And then the final type of users, the fourth type of users, that is called as a specialized users. Right? These specialized users are also called as a sophisticated users. They are using the specialized database applications. Right? They write the specialized database applications. This specialized database application that do not fit into the traditional database processing framework. They do not fit into the traditional data processing framework. That's why they are called as the specialized users. Right? So, what are the things are called as a specialized database applications? One is a computer-aided system design, a knowledge base and expert systems, a system which are stored the complex data like the various graphics and graphics data and audio data. We can say the blobs and globs, binary large object and character large object, and the environment modeling systems. As I said, the weather forecasting. These all the various applications which are designed by a specialized users. They are all called as a sophisticated users. Right? And next I'm moving on to the other type of a user, that is called as a database administrator, who plays a vital role on the database management system. Now, from this slide onwards, we are going to discuss about what are the other major players, so what we so far seen as the end users. Now, what we are trying to discuss here is the who are all playing the major vital role on monitoring or administering the database by the way of developing a database, by the way of developing the schema or changing the structure without affecting the higher levels, providing the security, monitoring the various activities of the users, by the way of improving the access time. Right? So, In this, the first user that is called as a database administrator. Right? So one of the main reasons for using the database is have a central control. It have a central control of both the data as well as also the programs. Since it is a tightly coupled, so that's why we are using the DBMS, database management system. Right? Now, who is the database administrator? A person who authorized to have this central control authority over the entire system. They are called as a database administrators, and their functions are: they will define the schema and the storage structures and access methods, and also its definitions. In what way on the physical storage medium the data are stored, and what are the ways we can access, and schema and physical organization modification. If there is anything is happened now, they can intended the certain users, they are intended to change the physical organizations according to the needs of the users, or according to the needs of the requirements. And next, the granting of authorizations of data access by the way of giving some access controls, by the way of providing some access mechanisms, simply by the way of providing the security. And the final one, that is called as a routine maintenance. That is called as a routine maintenance. So these all are some of the database responsibilities of the database administrator. Some of the responsibilities I have listed here. Let we know the schema definition. Then we know the storage structure and access method definition that can be done in the physical level. Now let me move on to what is called as a schema and a physical organization modification. According to the user needs, according to the user requirement, they can carry out the changes many times on the schema and as well as also the physical organization. That is based on the needs of the industry or needs of the organization. Now, why such a changes is needed? Because they want to improve the performance. At one point of them, they want to improve the performance. The other way, since the advancements, the future advancements, the enhancements, the upgradation, or otherwise we can term as since the technological advancements. Based on these factors also, they will change the schema as well as also the physical organization. The modifications can be done with those aspects also. And next is granting of authorization for data access. Since on the database there are the varieties of data are stored. Simply there are so many resources are placed on the particular database. Now every user who are there in the particular organization, they should have a proper access to invoke the database according to the view levels. So this database administrator, they can regulate the database access, like which are the parts of the database have to be accessed by the individual users by using certain privileges to the users. I am the one of the user of our university, but I am not authorized to access the complete database. This can be done only by granting the authorization for data access. And this authorization informations are stored in the separate system, are stored into the special systems, so that whenever if there is any user or any higher level user, if they want to access, they will look onto the authorization information whether I am authorized to access the information or not before they are attempting to access the database. That's why those special instructions are kept in the special systems, right? And the next one is routine maintenance. Meaning of the routine maintenance are backing up, and monitoring the efficiency, and so on. So periodic backing up of the data. This is one of the examples of the database administrator's routine work. And next, simply upgradation. The third thing is called as monitoring. Monitoring the currently running activities, because the performance is also plays a role here, vital role here. At any point of time, whatever may be the complex structure, the performance is not degraded. It should not be degraded. Right? So for this, we need a chief administrator to oversee all the activities of the various users, as well as also to manage various resources. Because we have more than one users are trying to access the same database. So in the database environment, the primary resource is the database itself, and the secondary resource, that is the DBMS and its related software. So we have a database administrator have to monitor then and there of the various resources associated in the particular environment. So they all are called as a database administrator. Right? And they are also responsible for authorizing access to the database, coordinating and monitoring its use, and acquiring software and hardware resources as needed. That's why simply I said upgradation and their day-to-day activities. If you have a question like, so every database administrator, they are having this responsibility. Yes, they are having this responsibility. Typically, they are not intended to do this. They have a certain team of people, supporting staffs are there. Those supporting staff, they have to do all these things. Their responsibility is only to coordinate. Right? And they are also accountable. This is main thing. They are also accountable whenever any security breaches or the poor system response time. That's why their day-to-day activity, their routine activities are defined in such a way that to monitor, to administer. Right? And next I'm moving on to the database designers. The database designers usually meet with the users. They are looking for the DBMS. From the users, they will collect the requirements. The user, one of the main responsibility is the user requirements supposed to be collected as part of the software engineering methodologies. That is not going to be done in the overnight. They have to schedule the frequent meeting with the authorized persons of any industry. They are looking to opt the database, DBMS. database management system. Based on their discussion, they have to figure out the requirements. Once the requirements are ready, once the requirements are gathered, then they have to choose the data model to create the structure of the database. Once the structure is ready, once the conceptual schema is ready, then they have to present it to the end user. They have to present it to the users. To sort out the further issues and to satisfy the user needs. Since we have collected the requirements, obviously we have to satisfy. So whether the schema, the conceptual schema, whichever is derived by the database designer or met the requirements of the customers, they have to analyze. So the review has to be conducted. These all are some of the responsibilities of the database designers. So they need to identify the data and they need to choose the appropriate structure to specify the data and also to store the data. So the main responsibility of the database designer is to communicate with all the database users. For what? To understand their requirements and to create the design that meets their requirements. So they interact typically with the potential group of users. They develop the views of the database. All these things they will do it. And finally, they will integrate the entire views, and then the final database design will be ready. Right? And next is the system analyst and application programmers. Both are called as the software engineers. Both are called as the software engineers. Right? The system analyst. The system analysts are to determine the requirements of the end users, especially from a Navy and the parametric end users. And once the requirement is ready, they have to develop the specifications for standard canned transactions. Right? And next is application programmers. They implement these specifications by using a program, and they test, debug, document it, and maintain these canned transactions. This is the responsibility of application programmers. So usually in generic way they termed as software developers or the software engineers. Right? They should be familiar with the full range of capabilities provided by the database DBMS to accomplish their task. So they have to know the full details of the DBMS, whatever they have provided. Right? So these all are the various users who are closely associated with the database management system and their responsibilities. I hope you are clear about the responsibilities of each and every individual users and how they are approaching or accessing the databases. Right? Thank you. If you have any queries, you please feel free to ask me. Thank you. Thank you so much.